إذا كنتم ثلاثة فلا يتناجى اثنان دون الآخر حتى تختلطوا بالناس من أجل أن يحزنه. The Prophet ﷺ says in this hadith that's related by Imam Bukhārī and Imam Muslim that when there is a group of three of you, two of you should not kind of separate yourself, not necessarily physically, but just start talking to yourself. So essentially what the Prophet ﷺ is saying is when there is a group of three, two of you should not converse in private, thus excluding the third, until you meet up with others as it may offend him, as it may cause him grievance. And really that normally happens. If three people are sitting there and two suddenly start talking in whispers, what's the third person going to think? I don't know if you've ever been in that situation, right? What's the third person going to think? What would you think if the two people you were with suddenly started talking in whispers? Like, what are they talking about? Right? Unless they kind of turned around and said, brother, it's okay, we're not talking about you. Or it's okay, there's something that I had to mention, which is really private. Unless you clarify yourself and unless you make a disclaimer, the person is going to feel really bad. You're part of that group. It's different if two people are just conversing on the side privately and you kind of show up in the middle. Then they're not obliged to reveal to you anything because you came in on them. You interrupted them. But if you're with three people and then you suddenly start talking to somebody else and at the exclusion of the third person, then that's a problem. Now this hadith, although the Prophet ﷺ said it this way, it doesn't have to refer to just this. Many manifestations of this hadith, in different ways of manifesting this. For example, let's just say that two of you are Pakistani, they speak Punjabi, for example, or they speak Urdu or Gujarati or Somali or, Arabic, and the third person doesn't. So you're all speaking in English and then suddenly two of you start conversing in this other language. Why would you do that? Right now, if you're friends from before, one has to understand, if you're friends from before and you do that sometimes and the person doesn't mind, then that's completely fine, right? It's fine because you're used to it. People are used to it. They're fine. You've got such friendship, they won't mind you doing that. But you have to be sensitive to this. And I think another thing here that we get great, you can say, I think another kind of more extended expression of this would be where three people among you and then two people start speaking some kind of jargon, certain terminology related to maybe a particular science or something, right? At the exclusion of the third person, making him feel bad. Now, if you make a disclaimer, look, we're going to have a very technical discussion, if you don't mind, we'll try to explain it to you later on, but it's a very technical discussion, very difficult to simplify things. So we're going to have this discussion, it's fine. But otherwise, one must be very careful because a mu'min's heart is very important, that we don't break it. That's very important. So we need to be very careful about that. Having said that, a person should not be the third person if the two friends need to speak about something, for example, right? If they need to speak about something and you're just being awkward and trying to be awkward about it, then that's obviously not very nice either, because there's no need for that, to do that. Right, so another manifestation of this is if people are speaking in a particular jargon, unless you explain to people, the main thing is just have somebody else's heart and their feelings in view. That's very important, is to have their feeling in view. So then it's fine in that case. One major complaint that people have, especially converts to a masjid or a certain group or a party that they've been invited to or a meeting they've been invited to, and especially if there's a certain ethnic group, it happens in masajid, it's really problematic. You've got all the Pakistanis who would sit together, right? You've got the Indians who would sit together. Sometimes the Pakistanis and Indians would sit together because they all know Urdu, right? And if there's an Arab person or two, they're going to feel really left out. And on the other hand, if you've got the Arabs and you've got one or two Indian Pakistanis, the Arabs are going to start speaking in Arabic, and these Pakistani Indians are going to feel left out. And the convert really feels sorry for them, because really when they come in, they're really excluded. That's why it's very important to make people feel included, right? It's not that people do it on purpose. It's just, I think, a bit unthoughtful. It's not that they do it on purpose, like, yeah, we're going to make them feel bad. That's why we're doing this. Let's all speak like this suddenly. let's all speak like this right now because we want that person to feel really bad so they don't come back. It's not like that. It's just that we're not very thoughtful about it, not very considerate. So it's just about being inconsiderate. That's why it's important that we be more considerate about these things. And the Prophet ﷺ said it in the best of ways. إِذَا كُنْتُمْ ثَلَاثَ, if there are three of you, فَلَا يَتَنَاجَى. Tanaja means to whisper, to say things intimately to each other. So you're essentially showing this kind of intimate discussion, expressing this intimate discussion with somebody at the exclusion of the third person. دون الآخر, leaving the third person out. حتى تختلطوا بالناس من أجل أن يحزنه. Right? Unless you're with other people or until you're with other people. Now, if there's four of you and two people are doing this, then it's obviously a lighter problem than it is when there's just one person, because at least the other person the other two could hold a conversation. It would still be bad if the two who are speaking are the more dominant people, right? The others are going to feel bad and left out, that what are these guys planning or plotting or whatever, right? Where there's an understanding, it's fine. Where there's an understanding, it's fine. Among friends, normally it should be fine because, everybody's considerate, everybody's tolerant of the other.
The point of a lecture is to encourage people to act, to get further, an inspiration, an encouragement, persuasion. The next step is to actually start learning seriously, to read books, to take on a subject of Islam and to understand all the subjects of Islam, at least at their basic level, so that we can become more aware of what our deen wants from us. And that's why we started Rayyan courses, so that you can actually take organized lectures on demand whenever you have free time, especially, for example, the Islamic Essentials course that we have on there, the Islamic Essentials Certificate, which you take 20 short modules, and at the end of that, inshallah, you will have gotten the basics of most of the most important topics in Islam, and you'll feel a lot more confident. You don't have to leave lectures behind. You can continue to leave, to listen to lectures, but you need to have this more sustained study as well. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.